Hi everyone, this is Renee Romeo of ReneeRomeo.com. Today you're in my kitchen where I'm teaching you how to make a delicious and decadent chicken and waffles recipe for your next Sunday brunch. This recipe consists of 5 separate parts, but I'm going to break each one of those down for you to make them easy to manage and even make them ahead if you like, but you can get the recipes in the commentary below this video on my website, ReneeRomeo.com. So the first recipe up is for Belgium waffles. Now Belgium waffles are the waffles that contain yeast, so they're really nice and light and fluffy and crispy on the outside. It takes about an hour and 15 minutes start to finish because you have to let this sit for a while to let the yeast grow. So I have 2 cups of whole milk. It's right now at lukewarm temperature so that I can actually dissolve the yeast into the lukewarm milk. I'll whisk it to get it incorporated. I have 4 eggs, which I'm separating. So these are at room temperature. This really works out a little better if you take these out a little bit ahead of time. So I've got my egg whites in one and a very tall, slender bowl because I'm going to be beating these separately. And I'll quickly beat the egg yolks. To that, I'm going to add the milk and yeast mixture. And then add a teaspoon of vanilla. And we'll set that aside. In a separate bowl, I'm sifting 2½ cups of all-purpose flour, half a teaspoon of salt, and a tablespoon of sugar. I'll whisk this together to incorporate it. Then I'll slowly whisk the dry ingredients into the wet. Now I can add a ½ cup of melted butter. Whisk that together. Then I'll take a hand mixer and beat the egg whites until they're nice and stiff. And that took about 1.5 minutes. Now I'm taking the stiff egg whites, placing them on top of this yeast mixture, and I'm gently going to fold it in. Now folding is different than stirring. You're just going to come through, cut it, and just kind of roll it around on your spatula until everything is nice and incorporated. This is the consistency when it's all done. It's nice and fluffy already, but I'm going to wrap this in plastic wrap and set it in a nice warm place for 45 minutes. The second part of this recipe is for spicy pecans. Now you could buy these at the store already made, or you can make your own. This is a really simple recipe. I make it every year for Christmas, but this is a really wonderful thing to have in an airtight container. You could have this done way ahead of time and just pull it out as you need it. So you need 1 pound of pecans. Now these are halved. They're all going into one big bowl. To that, I'm adding 4 tablespoons of pure maple syrup. Now it needs to be pure maple syrup in order to get the crispiness onto those pecans. I also have a tablespoon of dark brown sugar, a teaspoon of coarse salt, a teaspoon of thyme, a well-rounded ½ teaspoon of cayenne pepper. And you can adjust this depending on how much heat you like in your food. And these are being spread out on 2 separate cookie sheets on parchment lining. This is just going to be one single layer by the time I get through spreading all of these around. And into the oven they go for 12 to 15 minutes, stirring occasionally through, maybe once or twice. I've given the pecans a stir, so in the meantime, I'm just going to take a couple of beaters here that I've had sitting in the freezer, along with a nice narrow bowl like this, also sitting in the freezer. I'm going to work on the whipped cream while the pecans are finishing up. So I have 1 cup of heavy whipping cream. To that, I've added 1 tablespoon of pure maple syrup. Now that happens to be refrigerated as well. And then I'll add 1 teaspoon of vanilla. Now that only took a couple of minutes to get it nice and fluffy. Nice peaks forming, that's exactly what you want, so I can go ahead and cover this until I'm ready to use it. But really, I really want to do a taste test. So one of the things that I'm hoping for is that this recipe isn't going to be too sweet. I don't want a really sweet topping on this, I just want something nice and light and fluffy, so let's see how it tastes. Perfect. The pecans are out. They took 15 minutes. One tray took a little longer than the other. I left it in for 1 more minute, but this is what it's going to look like when they're done. They're beautiful, dark, and they smell wonderful. The pecans have been sitting for a few minutes. They're nice and crunchy and hard. So I funneled some of the pecans into this hand chopper. I'm just going to chop this really small. It's really nice and easy, and it doesn't take very much time at all to do this. I just wanted to give you a close-up on how that chopper works. I really love the consistency. Some pieces are big, some pieces are little, some pieces are in between. It's exactly what I was going for. It's going to look really beautiful when it's drizzled over the top of the waffles. You only need 3 simple ingredients to make sticky maple syrup. It's going to be poured over our entire chicken and waffles recipe. It's going to make this taste so good. It's sitting in a heavy bottom pot on simmering heat. I have 1 cup of pure maple syrup. I have 2 tablespoons of unsalted butter. And to that, eventually, I'm going to be adding some dark brown honey. So I just wanted to show you what I was doing with the chicken breasts that I purchased. These are thin chicken breasts. I'm just taking them and making them more of a tender size. This is what you want. You want to cook these really fast, so they need to be really thin. If you're using regular chicken breasts, go ahead and pound them down into a really manageable, quick cooking size. Well, now I'm in the home stretch. I'm preparing the coating for the chicken itself. It's a 2-part process. It's really easy. What I have here is just a Pyrex dish with a little bit of all-purpose flour laid out in the bottom. This is going to be acting as a dredging for the chicken itself. And really, it's just spiced how you like it. I have some Cajun seasoning, some black pepper, some salt, garlic, onion, parsley, and really the secret ingredient is a 1/4 teaspoon of nutmeg and an 1/8 of a teaspoon of rosemary. So you just add the other ingredients according to your own taste. From there, I'm going to prepare the beer batter, and it has a great secret ingredient to it, so stay tuned for that. The beer batter is really simple too, so I have a 1/2 teaspoon of olive oil in the bottom of this bowl. I'm breaking 1 egg into the bottom of that. I'm taking 1½ teaspoons of baking soda, 1 teaspoon of salt, and a 1/2 teaspoon of black pepper, adding that, and then I'm taking 1 can. Now this can is a 14.9 fluid ounce can of Guinness. Make sure that it's room temperature. That's really the key here. It's pouring everything into the bottom of this bowl. Now that's really frothy and fantastic smelling, and you really do need Guinness. So to that, I have 1 cup of all-purpose flour. Now I'm just going to be sprinkling this in here. I'll let that sit and bubble, and in the meantime, I want to show you what the Belgian waffle mixture looks like. At this point, I have my waffle iron heating up. I have a nice heavy pot on the stove with about a 1/2 inch of sunflower oil in it. That's heating up on medium-high. I have my beautiful Belgian waffle mix here, which has doubled in size since we started. And then I have a nice bubbly mixture of the beer batter mix. So my secret ingredient that I promised you is a bag of chips. Now, I take a bag of chips and I crush them. This is going to give the chicken just a marvelous crispy texture that you otherwise wouldn't get with just plain old beer batter. So let me show you my setup and show you how easy it is to get this done lickety-split. So here's the process from start to finish. We're going to dredge the chicken in the flour, making sure that it's nice and lightly coated. Dunk it into the beer batter, just like this, and then dunk it into the chips. And then into the hot oil. And when they're done, transfer them to a plate with paper toweling to drain off any excess oil. And then let's add the 1/2 jar of honey to the maple syrup and let it simmer just for a minute or 2. And there are gorgeous Belgian waffles, beautiful, nice and crispy, and 2 more ready to go in. I've cut each waffle diagonally just to make it look really pretty, set it up like a pinwheel, and I've beautifully plated it. So there's our sticky syrup, nice and warm from the stove. I'm taking some pecans, sprinkling them over the top. This is such a beautiful presentation, and a nice dollop of whipped cream on the top. Beautiful. And now for the moment of truth. I have a nice big steak knife that I'm using for this because it's really crispy. I can hear it crunching. I'm just going to grab as much of the syrup, the chicken, the pecans, and the whipped cream in one bite. It's amazing. Light, fluffy, crispy, flavorful. Oh, it's like heaven. Really, I know this seems like a lot of work, but you are going to impress any guest you have over, or heck, even your kids, right? Just impress your kids with this. They'll love it. This is amazing. This is Renee Romeo of ReneeRomeo.com. Thank you so much for watching this waffle and chicken recipe. And please go to my website and visit my In the Kitchen playlist where you can see all kinds of recipes just like this. This is Renee Romeo of ReneeRomeo.com. Please like, share, subscribe, and follow. I would so appreciate it. I'll see you next time.